Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Bravo Unscripted. And today I am honored to have a very special guest, Dr. Rocco. He is a coach. He's an author. He is a chiropractor, a speaker, but above all, he is an amazing dad.
Thank you.
And just a little background. So actually at an event here at the podcast studio where I record, I met Rocco and a friend of his, Danny Rampelli, who, Danny, if you're listening to this, I'm coming for you too. But I met the two of them that night, and we just had such an amazing conversation about being a single dad and raising girls and his daughter. And just, I knew that this was a voice that I wanted to have on my podcast and bring forward. So I'm honored that he's here with me today.
It's an honor.
So I'm going to let him kind of tell us a little bit about who he is. And I really threw one at him a few minutes ago and told him I wanted him to share one thing that he wished people knew about him. So
first off, it's an honor to be here. I'm very excited about this. I love this seat better than that seat. It makes my life a lot easier. So I love it. If I had to pick one thing, as I think I would want people to know that I'm an intentional father and that I'm always trying to navigate fatherhood in an upward trajectory, right? And not do it complacently and not just be like, oh, this is how it is. This is how it was. I think that's, I talk to a lot of people and I try and explain you can have a passion and a purpose in life and they don't have to be the same. Right. So some of my friends are chiropractors and their purpose in life is to be a chiropractor or to be a doctor or a vascular surgeon or a neurosurgeon. And they very much believe that is their purpose. Right. And then they have other passions, right? Their car club or the golfing or whatever. For me, my purpose is being a father and raising Sloan. That's what I feel like it is in expanding that and helping other fathers awaken that aspect of them, right, in their fatherhood. That's what I believe my purpose here is. My passion is health, adaptability, and I love that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And it's awesome. But push comes to shove, I'm going the direction of my purpose every day, right? And that's what I'm constantly wanting to enhance. So I think it's important to make that distinction. You can have multifaceted things in your life, but if it boiled down to one thing, it would be that father, purposeful father.
I love what you talk about being intentional and engaged. And of course, after we met, I stalked your Instagram page, which, let me tell you, totally down a rabbit hole because it was just phenomenal. I mean, the relationship that you and Sloan have is very special. And you being such a profound, strong figure in her life. I mean, we all know, there's endless statistics that show that women that had strong relationships with their fathers are more willing to take risks, like in the world of entrepreneurship. They are more self-confident. They have higher self-esteem. They're more confident. They show up more brave and courageous in the world.
Just more adapted to everything.
Yeah, and right? there's so many good things that go along with that. And so like for me, kind of growing up without having that, and then through my coaching business, the women and the girls that I work with, I see the results on both sides of the coin.
Sure.
And I get so excited when I see how you're raising her and the values that you're instilling in her. And that's something that I want you to talk about and to share with people, because I think there's so much value inside of this. And it's not rocket science. I mean, you're not doing anything. It's just so beautiful. And I shared with you earlier, one of my favorite moments on your Instagram page was the day that she made you up and you and her went to Whole Foods and you had full makeup on, including pink hair clips in your beard. Yeah. And it's one of the most fabulous things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, because what you wrote there was really profound. So talk to me about that.
So, being intentional for me, I actually think started when I started really studying metaphysics and the subconscious mind. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. I'm in control of all of the aspects of my life, and I have been given a conscious and subconscious mind to do these things. And then I've inherited things that I don't want. So how do I change them? And then when I had Sloan, I was like, whoa, I have thing that is in theta brainwave state, which is your, meditative sponge brainwave state for 7-ish years. What am I going to put in there? And that weight alone was like, you better be intentional because this is a lot of pressure. Right. And it was like, fuck, okay, here we go. Right. And there's things I wish I didn't put in. There's things I wish I was better at. If I had another child, I think I would do better because imagine that you get better the more you do something, right? What a principle to live life by, know, but shooting from the hip, not knowing what to do on being like, I didn't want a lot of other influence in her life. So I was like very tight on who saw her, who talked to her. Like, I mean, it was intense, and that intensity weighed on me, weighed on my relationship with my ex-wife. But I don't regret any of it because everybody that meets her is like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And so everything I did, when I say it, I do it with intention. I try and think of what the subconscious is going to think about what I'm doing. How is it going to imprint on the subconscious? What is the meaning going to be behind this 15 years from now, this moment? These are heavy things to think about as a father, right? And that's where you bring up the Whole Foods thing, right? So she wanted to do my makeup. I don't give a shit. I got fingernail polish on there right now, right? It's actually multifaceted how all this worked. So she wanted to do my makeup, and I'm like, cool, no problem. You can do my makeup. She's done it a couple times, whatever. She's like, okay, so we play this game where it's like freeze, or like she'll put a spell on me because we love Harry Potter, and like it's a freezing spell. So I have to like freeze. And she's like, now close your eyes. So like I close my eyes and I'm laying down and I'm frozen. And I know she's doing my makeup, but I'm frozen, so I can't move. Right. It's like, all right, cool. Well, we have markers that don't really smell, and it turns out that we were using markers and not makeup. And I was like, oh no. Right? So then I like get up, and I got all these hearts on my face and all this stuff, and my beard's done, and there's glitter, and she's like, more glitter, like all these things on my face. And we had to go to Whole Foods. And then she did my nails, and my nails were done. And we had to go to Whole Foods. And she's like, she wanted me to go to Whole Foods like that. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, wait, you're really going to go to Whole Foods like that? But to back up a second, she was so proud of what she did. She was so proud of how she dressed Dad up, what it looked like, how she did the makeup, how much glitter was on it. And so in my mind, the quick processing was like, what's the subconscious going to think right now if I say no? And where my mind went was, she's not going to feel validated. She's going to feel insecure about what she did. She's not going to think Dad wants to show off the work she did after I just got done telling her how great of a fucking job she did. She's going to think Dad cares more about what people think than how she feels. Like all of these things came to my mind, and I'm like, fuck all of that. Right. Like, I don't give a shit. I'll go I'm like, I tell her all the time, like, she'll be like, Dad, do you think this looks good? I'm like, do you think it looks good? I won't answer her. She's like, yeah. I'm like, then fuck yeah, it looks good. Like, we're not raising somebody to please other people, or I'm not raising a daughter to please other people. What feels fucking good to you? So I'm like, here we go. And like, I don't feel comfortable doing it at all. Like and she was smiling from ear to ear at Whole Foods, showing it off, telling everybody how she did my makeup and how fucking good it looks and like all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, now there's all those people out there that are like, oh, teaching her that guys can dress like girls. She's 6, fucking lax. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. The subconscious messaging was that Dad values what she did. Dad does think she's an amazing artist. She's an amazing makeup artist, whatever all of those things are. And that's going to portray so much more because she even asked me walking in there. She goes, Dad, aren't you going to be embarrassed walking in there like that? No. And I actually said, fuck no. Because I'm talking directly to that subconscious mind. No, I think it looks good. You like it. I like it. Here we go. This is what we're going to do. And then I did tell her. So then we did all that. And then we had to go to the gym that night too, because I was going to go to the gym. And I did tell her, I was like, baby girl, I'm going to take the stuff off my face for the gym because I'm going to be sweating and it's going to bother me and whatever. I said, but I'll leave the fingernail polish on. She lit up again. Was like, okay, so I take her in. She goes to daycare. Now's where it got really uncomfortable because now there's no little girl there.
It's just you.
It's just me at the gym with pink, sparkly nail polish on my fingers. That was awkward. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm staying here and I'm staying in this uncomfortableness until I get comfortable. And so I was walking around holding my fingers like this. Like I was like, I was putting them in my pockets and I kept having this conversation over and over and again in my head. I'm like, what is she teaching you? What are you learning? Like, do you really care? Did you just put a show on for her? How can you expand right now? How can you grow? Like all of these things are going through my head. And I remember telling myself, like, you're not fucking leaving here until you walk around with your hands the way you would normally walk through the gym. And so I spent about 45 minutes to an hour working out, really having a subconscious battle with myself about, does it matter? Do you care? Do they think you're gay? Well, you're not gay, so why does it matter? Your best friend is. So do you care? Are you embarrassed? Is this what he feels like every day? Or isn't it what he feels like because he's so secure in who he is, he doesn't actually give a fuck? Like all of these things are happening in my mind, all because my daughter fucking painted my fingernails. Right. And so
that's so cool.
I'm like, look at the level that I'm getting to push that ceiling of who I am. So then I get over it. Right. I'm like, boom, fuck yeah. Like I feel great about myself. Well, when I finish the gym, I go to the sauna for 20 minutes. Well, now I'm in my underwear in the sauna with my fingernails. And I'm like, fuck, all over again, all the thoughts, right? And there's like 8
swimming
guys
in the
there.
deep end of the pool.
And I'm like sitting in there. I got my arms under my armpits. I'm like, fuck, man. And I'm like, 20 minutes is a long fucking time. And if you got to stay in here longer to overcome these thoughts, you're in it. Like, you're not getting out of here either until you, like, so these are the conversations I'm having with myself. And I got to the point where I was good. And so I hope that story makes sense, but it matters because of how it programmed her. It matters because it forced me to grow to how to become more comfortable as a person, as a father, as a human. And she now knows that dad's like her ride or die. Like, he doesn't give a fuck. Like, right. Whatever you want to do, however you think it's going to go, let's do it. You know, and that's the intentionality of it. Like, if I said no, what was I going to crush in her? You know, this is interesting. I remember, so I was younger. I loved football, loved football. And I remember thinking of like plays and things in my head as a kid. And I probably couldn't have been more than, I don't know, 10. And I remember drawing an offense, like you put X's and O's when you draw a football thing, right? And I had the offense and I had the defense. And I remember I thought up this amazing play. And I was like, if the corner blitzes and the safety up here moves over and takes his spot, that would really throw the quarterback off and maybe they could get like a sack, right? And I was like, all excited about this thing that couldn't wait to tell my dad when he got home. Like, look, I created a football play. Maybe we could send it to the Steelers, you know, like this whole thing. And I tell him the play and he's like, they already do that. And I didn't realize till later, like, it was like, like how much that, and now I am not blaming my father for anything. I do not attach to those things. I just simply am trying to get better as a father. And what I remember feeling like after that, and it was like, fuck, you know, and now how would have I responded? I'd have been like, that's amazing. Can you come up with more plays? Let's put them in an envelope and mail them to the Steelers. You're fucking 6. You don't know. I'd have made up a letter back that was like, checked out the game this weekend. We're going to use your play because they're going to fucking do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so there's different things, but I remember feeling that and being like, whoa, and I didn't do anything wrong. He's a northern, western Pennsylvania, push, grind, grit, get it done. These are the facts. They do that play already.
Right.
He didn't tell me anything that was wrong, that was bad, nothing. Like, I don't, because I just don't like people going into like, and then that made me never want to play football again. Like,
right. Just
stop. You know, like, you are still your own person. But I am going to make sure that I don't create those thoughts in her the best way that I can. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. No, because I think when those moments are so profound because, yes, as an adult sitting here across from me now, you made that connection and you understand all those things. But I would be willing to bet that there was a good part of your childhood that did keep you from probably
100%.
Coming up with additional plays.
100%.
Yeah. So words have so much power. And one of the things that I love that you said as well is you talk about how you and Sloan do not talk about your problems. You talk about your opportunities.
Yes.
And I'm a huge fan of languaging because you do. When you say, I have a problem. And I mean, and even like our physiology changes. It's like, I have a problem.
Yep.
Like you slouch, you kind of turn in. But when you have an opportunity, it's like, hey, here's this opportunity. And just like you took with the nail polish, like there's opportunities everywhere. And not only for her to learn from you, but for you to learn from her.
I learn more from her than she probably learns from me, if we're being honest.
But how empowering is that for her that as her father, as the authority in her life, that you're willing to admit and show that vulnerability to her And I think that is just so powerful. And that just creates such a balance, and it empowers her so much. And I see that, and not just in women, but in people in general. It's like that empowerment where you can stand up and use your voice and not become a victim to what everybody else wants you to do and have to people please and basically sell your soul to the populace to get accepted and receive love.
Fuck that.
Yeah, no. So I've always said that, and this isn't just for girls, this is for everybody. But when you know that you can go out in the world and you can fall flat on your face 100 times and you have a safe space to come back to, there's so much power in that because it allows you to be who you are.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, sorry. And it just, there's so many people walking around trying to be something for everybody other than themselves. And it's just so beautiful to see her learning that you don't have to live your life like that.
You don't have to live your life like that. And I don't want you to. And back to what you said, creating a safe space. My goal, a lot of fathers don't want to talk to their daughters about sex or all of these things, right? There's like, oh, go talk to your mom about that or whatever. I want to create a place that's so safe because I don't want her ever. She can bring anything up to me and I'm not going to get mad. I tell her all the time and I'm trying to back it up with even more and more behavior, right? And, there was because I'm not perfect, because I know I'm molding this thing and I want her to have ability to focus and all this stuff. Like, when she was younger, she spilled the milk. I'd be like, hey, you weren't focused. You spilled the milk, right? Now it's like, I brush it off because I learned, like, I don't want to put all this insane pressure on her, right? Because this is what it's like. This is the real vulnerable stuff. Like, I didn't get to the point where I'm like, I'm better at handling situations by being fucking good at handling situations right off the bat, and I want to create a place where she can come to me with anything because I definitely don't want her at 16 getting her advice from other 16-year-olds, even though she's going to. But I don't want her to be like, oh, dad's unavailable, so I'm going to go get advice from the other 16-year-olds. It's like, well, hold on, let's talk to dad about that. Also, like, I can offer you a different perspective, and I'm still going to let you choose what is best for you because I want you to have that autonomy. But let's hear another perspective and creating that open dialogue all the time. And she catches me with stuff all the time. I think, we talked before about no means no, but no also means let's explain why I said no to certain situations. Like if I said no to an acai bowl tonight or no to a whatever, she knows there's certain things where she has the ability to question the no. And I want her to question the no because a lot of times I've said no to something. She's given me her point of view and her logic when I was looking at it through my perception, and her perception is very different than mine because no two points of perception coincide. And I felt was right. So we undid the no. I want that communication. Doesn't mean every time it's going to happen, but a lot of times she looks at it through a way that I kind of wish I'd have looked at it to begin with. And I'm learning from her how to look at life a little bit better, I think. Yeah. So
I love that
answers that.
No, it does. And I love the vulnerability. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, that vulnerability is so powerful. And I believe that for men, they're not given enough permission to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they're not given enough permission to have struggles and to have a hard time and to have feelings around that and be able to express those. And we talked earlier, on one of your posts, you mentioned that 77% of suicides are men. Yeah. And that it just kicked me in the gut.
Yep.
Because men right now, I think, are really getting a bad rap.
Yep.
And listen,
which is when we need to double down more than ever. But
amen. But listen, there are bad men, there are bad women, there are bad people in every walk of life. You cannot section out any one group of people and say that group is good or bad. Every single person needs to be held accountable for their actions on their own and who they are. Yeah.
I say all the time, if the whole world if everybody in the world cleaned their home, overnight the whole world would be clean.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about Jordan Peterson earlier. I mean, he has a whole thing about, like, you got to take care of yourself. And if all of us took care of ourselves, like, the ripple effect that would have is huge.
Astronomical.
But this, getting back to the vulnerability, like when you're the way that you're raising Sloan with that as well, we talked about, like, in my mind, I think that's going to not make her, but she will be a better partner when she gets older and in her relationships, because that's so powerful to be able to be there for each other.
Yep. And
masculine men just, I don't know. I struggle with this, and I'm a strong believer in masculine and feminine polarity.
Same.
And listen, I'm talking about energy. I'm talking about masculine energy, feminine energy. And I love this perception that you can learn from her and she can learn from you.
Yep.
And I want to kind of go back a little bit we talked a little bit earlier about kind of your story and where you got to where you are today. And I want to talk a little bit about your path and how you got here, because I don't think that this is like, I don't want to say it's not a normal thing, because I don't like that defining term, but like, what took you from falling asleep at school to where you are today, your relationship with your daughter? What was that? What was your process through that?
Yeah. So it's actually interesting. Eventually I'm going to have my ex-girlfriend, Sarah, from undergrad on my podcast. We reconnected, ironically, I don't know, probably 3 months after my divorce. We reconnected, hadn't spoke to each other for like 10 years. And I had downloaded Instagram, and her thing popped up on like my For You page, which she's like it's like a divine intervention, right? And I was like, is this Sarah? You know, like, it was like hilarious. And we'll joke and laugh about it. And she's relevant to this story. And then we healed a lot. I mean, we got on the phone with each other and just cried for like hours a few times, right? And did all this awesome stuff. So when I was in undergrad, I was off the rails. I was... You know, she described it as like, she's like, everything you are now is who I was able to see then that couldn't be let out. And it was like, fuck. She was like, you were hiding it under everything, you know? And I was like, I think I felt that retrospectively. I think I felt that. And she was like, and you were doing anything to like numb and shut out all the other pain that you had experienced. Right. And I was like, yeah, that's definitely, like, she was like, but at the same time, you were doing it just to feel something, because I conditioned my mind through childhood to be such a vault and so impenetrable that it didn't matter what you said, you weren't going to be able to get through or hurt me. Right. And in that, then it developed so strong that I ended up partying like crazy just to feel anything, which is kind of a conundrum, but it was. I mean, there was a point where I was drinking, and we dated in undergrad, and she was like, I remember thinking to myself, I have to leave him because I have to protect myself. But if I leave him, I'm afraid that he might die. And I'm like, Jesus, like, it's heavy, right? When you think about that stuff. And I have always been blessed with some type of divine feminine in my life that has got me through all of the hard times. And she was there to guide me through a certain portion of that. Then I had another girl that was there to guide me through the following portion of that and usher in this new thing that I am now, you know? And then my best friend in the world, Bree, got me through chiropractic school. Like, it just in a different aspect, not this like off the rails lunatic, you know, just like, I've been told I'm dumb my whole life and I didn't know how to read until 11th grade. And like, how the fuck am I going to pass chiropractic school? She's like, we got this, you know, like, I'm here, like, you know, whatever. And we developed a brother-sister bond. And, you know, people say guys and girls can't be friends, but me, her, and her husband are like best friends. Like, it's awesome. So, I mean, in undergrad, to the point where I would sit down. This is crazy. So 3 nights a week, I would sit down Thursday, Friday, Saturday with one of my best friends, who will remain nameless because I don't think he would want everybody to know. And I'd sit down with my own bottle of 3 olives cherry vodka and a 32 ounce of Monster. And I would drink the whole thing before we left the house, both of them. Then we would leave the house and we'd stop at Sheetz gas station. I would get a 5-hour energy drink. I'd have 1,000 milligrams of Vicodin on me. And then I would grab a 6-pack. And that's how I would go out and finish all of those things by the time the night was over. 3 nights a week, right? We would go very hard. Like, I probably should have been a reality TV show, like all the stories and things. And it was all just to feel. And I would just go. And then undergrad ended, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with my life. Like the partying's kind of over, but it's not over, you know, like I'm going to keep doing this. And I worked for a trucking company and they needed help in Charlotte. And we're like, hey, like it's uncomfortable to talk about. Like I'm even shaking, you know, they're like, hey, you know, we want you to come to Charlotte. And I didn't ask my girlfriend at the time. I was like, I just got to get out of here. I got to go. And so I left the environment and I went to Charlotte. And I found a John Maxwell book, like, I don't know, The Secrets to Success or Business Success. I mean, it's a little John Maxwell book's like 100 pages long. It's the size of this, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting at the pool in Charlotte, reading it and being like, my whole life's got to change. And I stopped drinking on a regular basis. And I still drank and had fun, right? Like, but I didn't drink like that anymore. Like just like that. Like I'm definitely the type of a person that I'm like, whoa. Like when I decide something or listen to something, it's time to implement it. Like it's time to implement it. I'm sure there's an addiction compulsive disorder there, you know, where it's like, let's fucking go. Like I'm addicted to the next level, you know, whatever that is. And again, one of the things in undergrad, I mean, I think it's important to talk about these things. I'm not proud of them, but it's like, I am proud of where I came from. Like, we would go out with people and people would be doing coke all night long. And then I became known as the guy that could keep up with everybody doing coke and drink just as much and party just as long without doing coke. Well, then I took on that identity for a very long time. And then it became addicted to that identity. And then I became addicted to the women that came with that identity. And I became addicted to the friends that came with that identity. Like all of these things. And it was a slippery slope. But then I don't even remember what was in the fucking book. I don't know why I bought the book. I just know I moved out of the environment and was like, I can't afford to go out in Charlotte. It's not a college town anymore. Like I don't have, you know, and I read the book and was just like, I don't want this anymore. And one thing led to another and I ended up in chiropractic school because one of my best friends called me and was like, hey, I'm going to chiropractic school. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I hung up the phone with him and I was like, if he can go, so can I. My laptop was right beside me. So I pulled up the laptop and I applied and I got accepted. 3 months later, I'm in school and he's not. And it turns out I'm fucking in love with what I do.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's always just been this when you strive for more, because then once I read that John Maxwell book, I'm like, how many more of these can I read? Like what comes next? Like if I feel, I'm like, if I feel this fucking good after this stupid book that was 50 pages, what does a 100-page book feel like? You know? And so then I just started changing. It's hard to explain to you how that happens. Does that make sense? And
no, it 1,000,000% makes sense because I think, and I have a very similar story. I mean, different characters, different, but very similar, like going through high school and, you know, all of that, like having no idea who I was. So attaching my identity to whoever I just happened to be around. Yep. And I became a brilliant shapeshifter. Like I can still, like I can walk into a room. I know exactly what people need from me and I can show up and be that person because for so long, yes, it's a gift and it's a curse.
The opportunity or the problem, right? This is a perfect example.
But for so long, because I didn't have my own identity.
Yeah.
I was lost. I didn't know who I was. And it took me a long time to figure that out. And it does. I don't believe these things happen in breakthroughs. If you sat and probably thought about it, you know, you left the environment, like you made little decisions. And then all of a sudden one day you're like, okay, this doesn't work for me anymore.
Doesn't work anymore. And part of that build up too is I've always definitely had the personality where I like to win. So I wanted to win at drinking. I wanted to win at bringing girls home. I wanted to win at being able to drink more than somebody on cocaine. Then I started reading books and I wanted to win at being able to read more books than people. Then I got to chiropractic school and I was like, well, I want to be better than all you fucking people. Right. And all of these things started happening. And so I'm blessed, like the opportunity there was good, but you're right. Like I have a patient of mine. She's unbelievable. And she all of this stuff is shifting in her life right now, like crazy shifting, everything, boyfriend, like whole world shifting. And I was explaining to her, I'm like, but the work you've done for the last year is what has made the shift happen. It didn't just everybody's like, oh, you're an overnight success. They didn't see you stayed up 80 fucking hours a week for the last 4 years.
Right.
You know, or like whatever it was, they didn't see that. And so those shifts do happen. And it was the same thing. You know, I got to chiropractic school and it's funny because life has seemed to always have a way to make me up level myself when I start to get complacent. And my last year of my relationship with my ex-wife, I was just coasting through life. I didn't know what I wanted. I had no purpose. I had no passion. Like, I knew my daughter mattered more to me than anything, but I wasn't generating income. I didn't feel very manly or masculine. Like, it was just, and we could talk a lot about those things. But then in the course of 1 year, we got divorced, wrecked me. I had to pick myself up from that, and my daughter got to watch that, which was pretty awesome because, like, I'm talking wrecked. And then 6 months after that, I was killing it and made an investment, and I lost every fucking penny I had, except it was in my checking account, which wasn't very much, like $2,000. I lost $78,000. And I'm like, how many more times am I going to get kicked in the fucking dick? Right? And I'm like, this is brutal. And I'm like, okay, I'm not a victim. Like, even when I was going through my divorce, I literally wrote, I am responsible on my forehand or whatever this is. I wrote, I am responsible on it every day because I'm like, I'm not going into the victim mentality. I'm not letting this happen. So I'm like, okay, it seems that the world just started calling me to a higher level faster than ever before. It was like, now you're going to break free of this. You're going to find your purpose and passion again. You're going to dive into it. You're going to start to teach. You're going to start to expand. You're going to start to give your gifts. Oh, by the way, guess what you've been neglecting? How to handle your fucking finances. So we're just going to take them all away because I know you don't like to get punched in the face more than once or twice. So we're going to take them all away, and you get to build it again and build it the right way because let's just clean the fucking slate, right? Okay, let's do it, right? But there's different ways to look at those. But those things, I think it's important that people understand, like, I was in bed for a week crying because I'm like, when I lost that money, all I could think about was what that was going to look like for Sloan. I'm like, she knows dad's a fucking failure. Dad's a fraud. Dad can't make it happen. Like, those are the thoughts that came into my mind. And then it was like, okay, build it again, figure out how to do it. Like, you get to show her how to respond now. So she's seen me, to bring this back to being a dad, she's seen me crying on the kitchen floor because my ex-wife left trying to make pasta. She's seen me crying because I lost money. She's seen me break down because I don't know what to do, how to handle her intense, beautiful, powerful, strong personality where she doesn't fucking give in and she doesn't waver on what she wants. She's seen me break down. But then she's seen dad pick himself back up again. She's seen the office grow. She's seen me put the pieces back together. And I think that's what's important. And so I'm not the same person. And to bring Sarah back into this is that she saw and loved this back then, which was so cool. And now we're such good friends, like, because, and again, back to your female and masculine, I think that's what she was trying to pull out that whole time, but she had to step away because she's going to kill me trying to get him to do what he needs to do because I was being the victim. And that's not how we live life. Right. And so I hope these answers your questions. I feel like we're all over the place. I apologize.
First of all, like, from my heart, I want to just acknowledge you so much for sharing that story and for being so beautiful and vulnerable, because I think so many of us have been in those places. And I would be willing to bet, and we'll mark our calendars and come back and have this conversation again in 15 years. Yeah. And we'll ask Sloan, what did you take away? What lessons, what things do you remember about that time when your dad was really struggling and then you watched him overcome that? I guarantee everything that she's going to take out of that over time is going to be beautiful, and it is going to make her a strong, powerful woman because she's not going to be afraid. Right. When she falls down and she's crying on her own kitchen floor, she's going to know that that's not the end. Yeah. Because you showed her that. Yep. And when we allow, I believe when we allow our kids to see that when you fall down, when you break, when things don't go the way that you want, it's not the end. This is building resilience is the most powerful gift that we can give them. It is. And I say it all the time, like, I wish we could normalize failure. We need to, because that's how we learn. Yeah. That is how we learn. And I totally get wanting to protect your children and not wanting them to see. Oh, of course. I get it. I understand it. I do. But you kind of have to set them up to fail every now and then, because if you don't learn how to fail, then when you do fail, you think it's the end of the world. And one of my best friends, he told me, he's like, the only thing I would change in there is life is already set up to give them the failures, and his job is to steward them through them, right? Because they're going to come. And they are going to come. And we're all going to fail. We're all going to fail. And, I remember being in the shower, curled up on the
the floor of the shower, not thinking I could get up. And I was like, I can't do this. I mean, because I was like suicidal at one point, like all of this stuff, right? And I was like suicidal with loose terms. Like the thoughts were very much there, right? And I was curled up on the floor in the shower, and I'll never forget. This was one of the pivotal moments that changed it. And I'm laying there, curled up, crying, and it's gonna make me emotional. And I was like, just sitting there, and it was like I just heard like, "Get the fuck up." What? Like it was like someone else was talking, you know? And so I remember being on my hands with my fist on the thing. I'm like, okay, I can get up. And I was like on my hands and knees. And then I just heard it so loud, and it was like, get the fuck up now. And I was like, pfft. And it was like, boom. And everything changed after that. Like it didn't change. When I say everything changed, my mind changed. It didn't mean that the world changed or I wasn't in pain anymore, that it was like, how am I going to rebuild it? Like I didn't wake up and all of a sudden I'm making $30,000 a month, you know, like nothing changed. Like I was still figuring out how to put food on the fucking table, you know, and like how to do this. But that moment was like, we're not going back. Like, all right, you hurt your lowest. Now just stand the fuck up. That's a win. Take the win. Mm-hmm. Take the fucking win, right? And then frame it as a win. Like if you're struggling, like everything can become a win. Like making your bed in the morning doesn't make you successful. Making your bed in the morning when you have no fucking routines and you're out of control in your life gives you a win that pushes you in the trajectory to be successful.
Yes.
Right. One of my patients pays for a house call. It's very expensive to have me come to your home. It's very expensive. Their bed is never fucking made, and they make a lot of goddamn money. So don't like a lot of these people are like, oh, make your bed and it's going to set you up for, why is it going to set you up for success? It's going to set you up for success when you're in your infancy because you have no fucking wins.
Right.
We have to build one win. That's a goddamn win. Mm-hmm. Getting up out of the shower was a fucking win. Making dinner was a win for me. Getting Sloan to bed without us both crying was a fucking win. Take the wins and then build on the wins. That's how you go from being, we talked about this earlier, T. Harv Eker. I love his book. It's how you go. If you're a level 2 person, you have a level 4 problem. That problem is going to fucking feel like the weight of the world coming down on you. But if you're a level 8 person, you have a level 4 problem, you don't even worry about the level 4 problem. You get to a level 8 problem by stacking fucking wins.
Yep.
And this is why all of these gurus, all of these people tell you these little things, but I think they leave out that little aspect of why it's so important. It's just proving to the subconscious mind that you are going to do what you say you're going to do. Which
Amen.
Comes back to, are you doing what you say you're due for your child? If you said you're going to bring them the lunch to school, did you bring the fucking lunch to school? Because especially if you have a daughter, trustworthiness is the number one thing that a woman looks for in a man as a partner. Do you do what you say? And that is the same with your daughter. So do you do what you say? And your son is learning how to be trustworthy and how to uphold what he says based off of you. So it's no different if you tell your son, I'm going to bring you your lunch to school, and you don't show up with their lunch.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's easy to tie all this stuff back to children. It's not, live life principles, become a better person. Your child relationship has to improve.
And it's interesting because you're talking about integrity, and most of us have integrity with the people in our lives. Most of us, if we tell somebody we're going to do something, we do it. But how many of us let ourselves down all the time?
All the time.
We make a promise to ourselves and we don't keep it.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, but I had a personal trainer who I love dearly. Billy Beck, this one's for you. But I remember Billy saying to me one day, he said, every time you make a promise to yourself, a little piece of you inside dies. And okay, is that a little dramatic? Yes, but he made the point. And clearly here I sit probably 9 or 10 years later, and I still remember him saying that to me. And it was a huge shift because we make promises to ourselves and then we don't keep them.
Well, and then you don't believe that you're trustworthy. And so then when
Amen.
Then when something happens, you don't think you can handle it because you haven't.
Because you have all this proof that you're not going to be there for yourself.
Right. Right.
And then you've got to go to work rebuilding. And, you know, it's interesting that one of your transitional periods came from a John Maxwell book. And I adore John Maxwell. I've studied under him. I'm certified through his programs as a speaker and a coach. And what I found when I came into the self-help world, I was very much in the same space. I was very much what I called at the time broken. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what I wanted. And for me, the self-help world was really fantastic. And then it started helping to lift me up. But there's a trap that we can get into in that self-help world.
That all the
and
time.
then it feeds into our one more thing and then you'll be good enough. Just do this and then you'll be good enough. Do this and then you'll be worthy.
Well, that's how.
So it's circling back to that. No, you're worthy now.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I love so much about how you're raising Sloan is Sloan is going out into the world with this feeling that she is worthy and that she empowers who she is, and she's not going to back down to you. And she understands that no is a complete sentence. And there's so much power in that because she will get to choose what things mean to her.
Yes. And that's ultimately what you want. I don't want her to choose things because I like them or do things because I like them. I mean, to the point where my sister's been in town before and I'm like, what do you want for dinner, Sloan? She's like, I'll have whatever Aunt Maya's having. I'm like, well, Aunt Maya's not going to tell me what she wants until you tell me what you want because I know what you're trying to do, And my sister's on board. She understands, we're not doing this. It's okay to want what Aunt Maya has. That's fine. But you're going to lead the way, and we're going to do these things. And, oh man, you brought up something there that was awesome. I don't remember. It's okay. Sorry about that.
We'll circle back.
Pause. We'll circle back. Yeah. Man, I can talk about this stuff forever, so we can keep going. You can ask me any questions you want.
Yeah, the integrity piece is really big because I think that's, I talk to so many, especially women. I mean, women are what I work with, so that's where my familiarity is. And so much of it comes down to two of my big pillar points on coaching are self-leadership and self-love. Because when you love yourself and you're making decisions from a space of loving yourself, you're making different decisions.
Yeah. That's discipline. See, that's willpower to me. So willpower is actually self-love.
Yes.
Willpower, I think we've confused it in the self-help world of willing yourself to do something you don't want to do. Now, I understand that that's kind of the basis of it, but you have to understand that you're enacting your willpower to build wins to prove to yourself that you love yourself, to stack that deck, because the things that you have to enact willpower towards generally should be things that are for you to make you a better person. If you say, I'm going to read 10 pages of a book every day, and it's all right, I'm going to use my willpower to do that. That's self-love. You're reading the 10 pages because you fucking love yourself so much that you're unwilling to compromise on it. And I just had this conversation with Sloan Monday night. So Sunday, I was like, Sloan, tomorrow, my day's a little bit different. I have the ability to go to the gym during the day, or we can go at night after I pick you up and you can play in the play area. She's like, I want to go at nighttime and play in the play area. I'm like, okay, cool. Woke up on the morning Monday. I'm like, Sloan, just remember, are you sure that you want to go play tonight in the play area, or do you want, Dad to go right before I pick you up? She goes, I don't want a sweaty hug. I'm like, well, you're getting a sweaty hug anyways. I was like, because I'm giving you a hug after the playroom. She starts laughing. So then I pick her up, and then it's time to go to the gym. She didn't want to go. I was like, okay, I understand you don't want to go, but Dad has made a commitment to himself that I'm going to make it to the gym X amount of days, and we made a commitment and talked about this. So we're going to go tonight, right? And as much as I didn't want to go because I knew she wanted to play together, I was like, I have to show her that this commitment is something I made to myself, and I have to fill my cup. And so we went, and she had a great time. But there was a little struggle there for a minute because she was like, well, I changed my mind. I'm like, it's totally okay to change your mind. But this change of your mind affects me too, and I planned the whole thing around it, and we're a team. And so this is, what we need to do together because Dad needs to get this done. It's very important. So, and I'm thinking about, going to a gym that isn't so strict about where the kids can be so that can change, but either way, it's to me, again, though, that's self-love. And that's really what boundaries are for. And that's really what willpower is for, is to reinforce self-love, which we're talking about this whole time is the more you love yourself, the more you can love your kid. The more you get your shit together, the more you can love your kid. The more structured you get, the more you can love your kid. The more you can give to your kid, the more you can do for your kid. And those are the things that weigh on me as a dad, I think, the most is I want to show her how to work hard. I want to show her how to work smart. I want to show her how to make money. I want to show her how to live this completely free, awesome lifestyle. But I also want to be present, and I want to be communicative, and I want to learn how to do all these things. And sometimes the weight just feels so heavy. How am I going to do all of these things? And you break every few months, you break, and then but the break ends up somehow rebuilding stronger. It's just like you tear the muscle when you work out, it builds back stronger. So I guess you just roll with it. I mean, I think all dads feel this way.
Yeah. And being a parent is hard. I mean, you have this tiny human who is looking to you for all their life skills, all their knowledge, they're looking to you for that. And the weight of that is profound.
Yeah.
And I asked you earlier, what is it that you do to fill your cup as a dad?
Yeah. It's constantly changing and I'm learning as I go. And being the person who likes to win, I go through, I'm not big on, balance and routines. And the reason I'm not big on balance and routines is because I believe that they don't exist. I believe that we're meant to live in the extremes. And I think that balance was a concept made up by the personal development world to sell you on balance.
Yeah, I agree.
It's never achievable. 100%, yeah. So we can sell you it forever, right? So because I think we're meant to live in the extremes, I've been giving myself more, because I got very deep into that self-help world, right, for a long time ago. And it got ingrained into my mind. I'm supposed to have all of this balance, and it's like, fuck, it doesn't work. So life is a marathon of sprints.
I love that term.
And how do I navigate the sprints? Like right now I'm sprinting to get things finished for dad time and get the website up and all of these things. By the time this airs, it's all going to be up and ready to go. And the subscription service is going to be there and the book's going to be, all the stuff's going to be there. Well, it's an all out sprint to get there right now. Mm-hmm. So how do I describe this? What sprint am I running and where do I get to give more time to during that sprint? So if this sprint right now is getting all of this stuff that's very uncomfortable for me to get done because I don't like computers. And, when I was in chiropractic school or I'm learning about being a dad, it's very easy to push that stuff because I want to learn about it. I honestly just don't give a fuck about making a website. And then after this one, I'm never doing it again. I'm just so far in it. Like I'll pay some, you see, so yeah. It's very uncomfortable and I don't like doing it. But this is a series of a sprint. So then I have to navigate in this sprint. Where does self-care fit and what does it look like? For me right now, it's the gym 3 days a week with the sauna 5 days a week because I go and I can sit in it. And then maybe it's 30 minutes or an hour of TV at the end of the night where and it's something funny. I like to just, right? Like zone out.
Right.
Brain Tap. I have this awesome device called Brain Tap that takes you to monk level brainwave states in a very short amount of time. I'll toss that on. I'm an affiliate. So we can post that on there. I don't ever promote that. It's just something I like. I get regular chiropractic care the way I give it. So very vibrational, neurological based chiropractic care. All about just trying to keep my vibration as high as possible. And then sometimes I have more time and I'll go work with a life coach or I will have more conversations with friends. One of my big things that I do at least 3 days a week is I go get a cigar with one of my best friends. That for me, I think every man needs that.
Yes.
And you can do it alone and you can do it with a book. You can do it with a friend. Go get a cigar. If you don't know anybody, just go to your local cigar lounge, walk in, ask the guy there, hey, what cigar do you recommend for someone who's never smoked a cigar before? Take it, sit down, open it up, and smoke it. Go back 3 days later, do the same thing. Eventually, people are going to start talking to you because you're going to become a regular. You're going to meet some of the nicest, most awesome, most successful people you've ever met in your entire life. Take a book and read it with you. Like that's, now that we're like talking through it, those are the things that I do. Like they're not profound, but it's how often do I get to do them? If I'm not in a sprint to finish a website or to finish this by August 1st, then maybe I'm at the cigar lounge 6 days a week. Right? And so I'm building up my bank account. Maybe I'm at the gym 5 days a week. I'm building up my bank account so that when I go through the next sprint of changing the business or doing or pushing or speaking, that I can pull from the bank account that's pretty fucking full. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So this is how I like to navigate it because it's never going to stop. The next opportunity is coming. The next opportunity is coming. The next opportunity is coming. And definitely getting to a place where like I can say no to things, is important too. But I kind of am a yes man because like every time I say yes, something awesome fucking happens. So it's kind of like I don't really like to say no to a lot of stuff. And so to me, that's the best way to manage all of it is find out what you love to do And like, I hate long distance running. Maybe that's something somebody loves to do. Well, you can figure that out in your sprint session of what that looks like, how to get it in, or the gym or whatever those things are. But it's got to be self-care. And self-care, one of my best friends and life coach, Heather, talks about it. She's like, self-care is not getting a pedicure done. Self-care kind of sucks sometimes. It's doing the hard work. It's, like I went the other weekend and spent 2 days with one of my best friends, and we had an amazing time together. But we peeled back layers of our subconscious. We worked on shit, and then we came back and we implemented new changes in our lives immediately. That's self-care. My bank account got really fucking full, even though I know I'm going to be taking a shit ton of withdrawals. And I didn't do it by meditating or going and getting a massage or all those other kinds of things, right? So I hope all that makes sense.
No, it does. And I love that you acknowledge that, I totally agree with you on the balance thing. And I think when we live a life where we're trying to strive for balance, it just creates so much stress on ourselves, because let's face it, life is never balanced. Life is rarely balanced. It's sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes it's 40-60. It depends.
Yep.
And being able to acknowledge that is really powerful, and being able to say, you know what? Yeah, like right now I'm really inundated and I don't have time to do all the things I want to do. I'll get there. And then when I do, I love what you're talking about, like filling your cup. So I know we're starting to kind of come up on time, and I want to talk to you a little bit about your podcast, the It's Dad Time podcast, and social media, and where people can find you and follow you and all of the amazing things that you're doing.
Sure. So you can find me everywhere at It's Dad Time _ on all the social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, all those kinds of things. The podcast you can find on Audible, anywhere you can find podcasts, I'm sure. It's Dad Time with Doc Rock, DOCROC. And the podcast really just came about of me wanting to be a better dad. Originally, one of my best friends was like, hey, you should start talking about being a dad, talk about how you program her subconscious, all those kinds of things. And I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. And then I was like, man, it's a little more tricky to talk about without being queued up than I thought it was. And then I was like, there's actually more I want to know about being a dad. So why don't I just interview other dads and learn more cool shit, because we all do it different. I have dads on there that have 4 kids, have 7 kids. Like, what's it like to manage 7 kids? I don't know.
God, I would lose one for sure.
Lose it. But it's like my perspective and my perception is one badass fucking daughter that takes all of me to raise. Like the thought of having 2 or 3 of her, but then what's it like to raise boys? I don't know, but I know that I want to create a community where, and we've talked about this before, I don't think that the male's brain and perception of the male's brain is the same as the female's in terms of like, oh my God, we have so much to deal with as men and we're under attack. I think we very rarely think of it in terms of that. But we do deal with unique challenges as men. And I don't think there's really a lot of places where it's like cool to deal with those unique challenges. And so I wanted to create a platform where other dads can get on and talk about like real shit, where it's like, damn, I got to go work out of town for 3 weeks and I'm not going to see my kid, but I have to put food on the fucking table because this is the business I chose. And like, what does that feel like? Like, how do we navigate that?
Right.
One of my other buddies was on, he graduated college. His girlfriend has a 4-year-old daughter, 5-year-old daughter, and they're pregnant with with another man. And so he's a stepdad and they're pregnant with their first kid. Well, what is that? I think a lot of people can probably relate to that story. So let's talk. Let's figure, how are you navigating that? What did you decide to do after school? Like, what's the relationship like, between you and her, and what's going to be like with the other kid? What's your relationship like with the child? Like, I'm fascinated with people's stories and wanting to know how they got where they are. In every podcast, I learned something. And that's why I think selfishly I started it, because I wanted to be better for Sloan. And so I'm like, well, if I just interview really good people at being dads, I just kind of have to become better.
Right. Yeah. One of the reasons I started this podcast and the whole storytelling and bringing forth, people doing extraordinary things is because it's through those stories that we learn and the connections that we make. And I think you mentioned it earlier. It's that knowing that you're not alone.
Yeah.
No matter how dark, no matter what you're going through, you're not alone. Somebody else is going through the same thing.
And I'm definitely, and I think it's probably a man thing, but I'm definitely someone who shuts everything out when I'm going through hard stuff. I don't eat. It's like I shut everyone out. I don't eat, and I get laser focused on how the fuck do I crush and get through this, right? And so now that I've gone through some very hard times and chose to do a different way, like hire someone like you and do these different things, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Maybe other guys should try this because it's not as fucking hard when you do it that way.
Right.
You know,
when we reach out, when we find that vulnerability to be able to reach out and say, I can't do it all on my own.
Yeah.
I need some help.
Yes.
And then asking for help is one thing, and then being open to receiving that help.
Yes. You rebel against it at first when you're not used to it.
And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. I mean, I love it. I love what you're doing. I think it's awesome. Again, everything's communicated through stories. So like when people listen to your podcast and they hear people's stories, like they're going to resonate with it and be like, oh shit, I can do this. My situation kind of sucks, but like they fucking did it.
Right, exactly. We find gold nuggets all over the place.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I'm so grateful that you are here today. And I would love to have a follow-up episode where we bring Sloan in as well and maybe get a little bit of her insights.
I would love to do that.
I would love to share her story as well.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
All right. So
Thank you so much.
That is a wrap. I want to thank everyone for showing up and for listening. You can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, all those cool places. And please, it's a great support to us in this community. Please like, follow, subscribe, comment, all of those really fun things. It's really super helpful for me and very grateful for your support.
And you can direct message me on any of the platforms if you would like. Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. Thank you.